All in one what? By the way, I love it. I got to tell you, now I know, look at that. That's one of those, it kind of looks like this, right? Like a boat, like an actual boat. But actually the word for ark in Hebrew is not a boat. Box, raft, was for something different. It wasn't to have a rudder to go somewhere. And in fact, to understand this, I got different parts of Scripture that I can hit, but rather than reading it, I'll tell the story. Essentially, the earth had become very violent. It literally says it in the text. There was a group especially called Nephilim, and I know online you talk a lot about that Nephilim, Raphalim, different characters, but Nephilim. Some people say that it was like angels with people. That's a bunch of mysticism from the intertestamental period, from some books. It's guys that write a lot of things. It's fun. It's Gnosticism, Greek Gnosticism. Basically, Nephilim is the children of Seth, meaning the ones that actually follow God, and the children of Cain, which don't follow God. They came together, and Cain was east of Eden, the land of Nod, which means literally the place of wandering, right? So they go east of Eden. And if you look on Pangaea, you can kind of see that area. And you move that direction. And then the technology started. Technology can be so good, but sometimes it can be so evil. You know that, right? I think Mark Zuckerberg was in court this week dealing with the Facebook stuff and Instagram and mothers who have children who've committed suicide. Technology can be good, but technology can also not be so good, especially in the hands of the wrong people, right? It's just the way this earth works. It's the way human nature is. Everything that's good has its equal negative value. Well, God said this generation must be gone. And I'm not going to get into all the different debates about that. But there was one guy named Noah. It says Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. He was someone that cared. He was from the line of Seth, or Adam and Eve, that didn't break off. Remember, Cain and Abel was that big split. Cain killed Abel. And that was, Cain went off. And actually, God protected Cain, even though he'd done this. He said, you need to have grace. God did that. But boy, it went south, as sometimes does. Just because we give grace doesn't mean someone's going to be good, right? We know that in our own families. We know that in society. Just because we love someone and do something nice for someone does not mean that that person's going to immediately reciprocate and do something better for us. That doesn't always happen in this world. And it didn't happen with Cain. So, God says we're going to destroy, and for 150 years they built an ark. Now, the size of the ark, I think, is much larger than what our text says, because it's going by cubits, assuming that the human being is exactly the same size as today. It would be about, a couple football fields, right, in length. But if you're bigger, it's going to be larger. It was made with 3 decks. And you take a look at these decks. Now, this is something from the museum. And this is one that a student made for Dad. Now, if you want to zoom into this, you kind of can. It's kind of cool. It has an arboretum in it, which, of course, the ark did have. Because in the Bible, it literally says, take in there the seed-bearing trees and the plants. They were to gather and basically protect life on earth. Sometimes, we say that the ark is something. When I say we, I'm talking about our scientific minds. Oftentimes say it's impossible for every animal to go in there. Well, you don't have to get every single dog. Just have to get one thoroughbred. Couple. Done. And from that, that's how nature works. That's how nature works. Through time, microevolution happens. People change. Or should I say animals change? And it's interesting, in genetics, it is always the thing that's different that actually grows more and outputs. That in nature, that's just how it works. Eggs go on of dinosaurs. I know I always get that. You've got all these different animals, different pure breeds going in to then retrofit the world after. All this time, Noah is calling people to be on the ark. All this time, Noah is saying, come, God is going to destroy the earth, and everybody said, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. You know? Only 8 people walked onto the ark. Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, and their wives. And that was it. Now, as a pastor, if I had a church that only had my wife, and you know there's been times in our ministry where we felt like that, right? If I only had Anna with me and my kids with their significant other, I probably would not consider myself a success in a church, right? Be very careful now. Say, right, Pastor. Oh, sorry. You can lead a horse to water, but what? You can't make them drink. I understand that. My cat at home, she begs for milk. Okay, very good. Absolutely. Okay, so you put milk down, and then you come back at the end of the day, and it's sitting there. It's like cottage cheese. It's just been sitting there all day. I'm like, Neffy, Nefertiti is her name. Neffy, you're supposed to drink it. And she looks at me and says, I just wanted you to put it there, but I'm not going to drink it. Okay, then I'm not putting it out again. Whine and complain all you want, right? This is how it is. We can try, but in the end, everyone makes a choice. And when we make that choice, when it's the right choice, it's better for us. But when we make the wrong choices, it can be very painful in our lives. As a pastor, I have seen many church members of mine. Not just that, I've seen my own family members. And you know what? When I was young, I can remember when my dad talked to me. John, you don't want to do this. But Dad, right? It's one of those, right? We make choices in our lives. And sometimes those choices are not good. And when we make those poor choices, we have to bear the results of that. As a parent or as a friend or as a pastor or as a teacher or as a leader, how in the world, we become Nazis if we just tell people, you will do this. Achtung, everyone will be exactly the way I say it is. Maybe with good intentions, but it's wrong, right? This is the deal in life. Choice must be made. People must be convinced in their own minds. But we human beings always want to force it. But God does not do that. So the family comes in, and they go into the ark. And actually, the angel, it says, closed the door on the ark. Now, it was made out of gopher wood, which rhymes with kopher. In Hebrew, the word kopher means the cover or a covering. So you say that's pitch. That's what people say, it's pitch. Actually the same word used for Moses when he was put in the basket with pitch. The mom put him in there to protect him from Pharaoh. Same words all used. as with the ark. And, but kopher also is the same word used for the cover over the Ark of the Covenant. The place where the blood of the lamb is put, or the blood of the goat that covers the sins of the people of Israel. So when Jesus dies for us, he covers us. Kopher, he covers us so that our sins are not seen by the Father, or by not seen. God knows it's there, but because of his perfection, he covers us. He takes his perfect life, covers us over, so that our imperfectness can go to him. That's kopher, same as what the ark had over it. The door was shut, and for 7 days, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 days, Noah and the family were in there, and everybody was kind of laughing at them. Nothing was happening. I can understand why no one wants to go in an ark. Who wants to go in an ark with a bunch of animals? You do? I'm glad. Okay, Gisele. Now I'm going to say, how do you enjoy smelling animals? It's like, I'm going to go in, but I'm going to stand at that window right there. And I'm going to go like this with my lips out. You know what I mean? This is the thing about the ark concept. I kind of, in a way, feel for the people. It's like, do I really want to live with these animals? I mean, yeah, giraffes, they're fine. I mean, cats are cute. Dogs are nice. Not so sure about the lion and the T-Rex. Not so sure about all these other ones. In fact, everyone on that ark had to have a job because you have to have the ecosystem working. You have to take the waste, and you take the waste and you put it where the arboretum is, right? And I'm sure everyone enjoyed the smell because it was literally not just 40 days and 40 nights of rain. By the way, when I say rain, I want you to know that scriptures don't say that water just came from above. It says it came from below. And when it says water, mayim, it also can be liquid. And in the museum, I talk about this, that there was unbelievable cataclysmic volcanic activity going on. In fact, that geological column was built by this. That's the only way there can be immediate petrification. It's the only way a dinosaur can be eating greens and have it immediately solidified inside their mouth and turned into stone is through volcanic heat and pressure. I'm sorry, it wasn't long. It was immediate. Just like at Mount St. Helens. There are trees at Mount St. Helens on Spirit Lake which date to 130 million years old, but we have pictures of them growing in 1978. So that's what happens. Petrification means the minerals that are inside the lava or inside the earth immediately are compressed and replaced. Boom. Petrification. So this earth was rocked and torn, and that boat lifted. And I guarantee you for 40 days and 40 nights, they weren't having a good time. It wasn't a boat. It actually was a raft. As the waters rose, as the earth changed, as the geological column skewed, as Pangaea became what we have today, through a rocking of the earth. But we sometimes think that after 40 days and 40 nights, it's done. No, if you read in the text, then there's another 150 days. Because the water has to go down. Takes a while. It goes up, but the water table has to drop. 150 days until they finally start seeing the possibility. In fact, it has in the story that Noah brings a sparrow, a dove, ravens, and finally, one of them disappears. The dove first brings back a little leaf, and then he disappears, but all they saw was water. And then after that 150 days, they start seeing the tops of mountains appearing. If you read the text, you go through the story, it's kind of cool. It's amazing. And eventually it rests on the top in the mountain chain of Mount Ararat. You know who here is Armenian, right? You may be Armenian or you may be Persian with Iranian. Both of your countries connect right there where Turkey, Iran, Iraq, Syria's right there. All of them interconnect to Armenia right there where that mountain is. And then it starts, but it's not done yet. They were for an entire year inside that ark. Now, I'm looking at the time. So, Pastor, why are you telling me this story? What does it have to do with the price of eggs in China? You're right, but keep listening. Doing the right thing for your life doesn't mean it's going to be joyful, always. It will have a joy. Sometimes, maybe making a choice for God, maybe even being in a church. Because, by the way, in the Word of God, Jude and Peter refer to the church and baptism like being in the ark. In fact, take a look at this church. I want you to look at the ceiling for a second. Look at the ceiling. What does it look like? If you take the building and turn it upside down, you can put a few layers. Kind of like an ark, huh? Ancient buildings are like that. Especially after the Reformation, they started making buildings to look like it. In fact, in early America, do you know in Maine and Vermont and places like that, they literally would have pulpits here that looked like the mast of a ship. Literally. Have you ever seen that? Now, it's kind of weird. Actually, maybe I could have Living Stones build me a ship. I'll preach from a ship mast. What a cool idea. All right, anyway, never mind. Never mind. Enough. I like being dramatic. Done. All right. But the thing and the reason why we Christians oftentimes like the ship concept is because being in Jesus and being in the church is a protection from those elements of destruction outside. And it doesn't take someone with a PhD to know that this world is a mess. Does it? Between the left and the right now, man. Forget the politics. Just think of reality. Separating ourselves from governments. It's a mess. Jesus said that nations will be angry. Well, that's a song. By this we do know. Jesus is coming again. You know, the church can be a pain, and sometimes the people we're with are kind of stinky. Not, well, maybe physically. But sometimes being in a church can be very annoying. You get people with different opinions, people that act like lions, people that act like skunks, people that act like dogs and cats, people that act like Noah, people that act like all different kinds of things can be in a church. And that's frankly one of the reasons why we oftentimes don't want to become involved in a church, is because we know the people. Well, let me just quote a bumper sticker. It was a great bumper sticker. It said, and I've said this to my church a couple times, maybe a few years ago, Lord, I love you, but please, Lord, save me from your people. Have you seen ones like that? You maybe didn't see that bumper sticker, but I guarantee you might have thought that once or twice. Right? Yeah. I know, man. I'm the same. In fact, that was the reason why I didn't want to be a pastor. I would have worked on film. I was working on film when God called me. I don't want to work with. I love God. I love the idea of the church. I love you, Jesus, but I don't want to deal with those people. That was what I literally would say. And then, literally, God called me. Audibly. And I started to learn to love those that are a little different than me. That's hard. Because we human beings don't want to do that. We want things our way. Whether you're on the right or the left, both sides want things their way. Whether you're Christian or Muslims, we all want things our way. Whether you're Buddhist or Hindu, we want things our way. We want things to be ordered for us. We don't want to do it like them. Why even have them here unless they support me? That's kind of how we are as human beings. But the thing about the church is it's like Noah's Ark. We kind of are forced to be all in one boat, to work together. And you know what's amazing about working together is we discover the people we don't like sometimes are our brothers and sisters we never realized. Oftentimes, the people we complain the most about as human beings become the ones that become our support if we stick around. That's the amazing thing, because ultimately, if our mission is central, then we can work together. My friends, sometimes it's stinky in the ark. Sometimes it's not fun. We don't get to do everything we want to all the time. But God has a future for you. God has a purpose for you. God has a life for you that you never realized. He has called you by name. So I'm going to ask you to be in that boat with me. God bless you all.